John Fredericks Radio Network, your Godzilla of the Truth in America. Great to have you back on this Friday, TGIF. Joining us now, Senior Advisor, TradeWorks of America, Andy Koenig. Andrew, great to have you with us, man.
John, thank you so much for having me this morning. How you doing?
Andrew, we're frustrated with USMCA because it's a great trade bill that the president, the vice president, and others have crafted. It is so much superior to NAFTA. Mexico's on board. Canada's on board. The Democrats who got elected to Congress, here's what they told us. They said, we're going to do the right thing for the American people. We are not going to get caught up in politics and all this other nonsense. Let us govern. We will do the right thing. We will get meaningful legislation passed. Meantime, USMCA has been sitting in Nancy Pelosi's top drawer for months. Meantime, thousands and thousands of farmers, dairy farmers, timber workers, manufacturers are suffering because we can't get this trade deal out of her desk onto the floor and signed into law. What's the deal, Andy?
You know, John, you said it 100% correctly. You're talking about a piece of legislation that would create 176,000 jobs, brings $60 billion of investment back into this country. It fixes a lot of the problems with NAFTA. It increases labor protections. It ensures that there's more manufacturing here in America. It removes barriers that Canada and Mexico have set up to keep our farm products out of those countries. Nancy Pelosi hasn't done anything to move this piece of legislation, even though she keeps telling the media that she wants to get to a yes, that she wants a plan to take up a vote. John, I get worried, and as we work on this here in D.C., that it's become an issue of pure partisan politics. Nancy Pelosi doesn't want to give the president a win. Mm-hmm. She knows that this new NAFTA deal that they have created and fixed the problems with the original NAFTA is a benefit across the board, and she's worried that it'll be looked at as something where, you know, the president went out and campaigned on getting new trade deals and fixing these broken trade deals, and she doesn't want to give him a political victory right now.
So because she doesn't want to give a political victory to the president, to the current administration, people that could be benefiting, regular Americans, manufacturers, timber workers, dairy farmers, regular land farmers, all these people that could benefit, many of them, as you know, in Virginia, in Maryland, a lot of my coverage area, North Carolina, Raleigh, all these people could benefit. They're getting screwed because she doesn't want to give a political victory to the current administration. Andy, that's sick.
It's really frustrating too, John, because as you mentioned, you have all these new members of Congress, a lot of new Democrat freshman members. Who said that they were coming up here because Washington was broken, because they wanted to get stuff done. They haven't done anything on funding the military yet. They haven't done anything on drug prices, which was a big promise. And they have this USMCA bill, this bill that creates higher wages and more jobs for farmers, for small businesses, for manufacturers, sitting right there, ready to go. And again, it's all gotten caught up in Nancy Pelosi's partisan politics. What we really need is some of these freshman members, whether it's Luria, whether it's Wexton up here, whether it's Spanberger in Central Virginia, to go to the speaker and say, we want to vote on this. We know this helps our constituents. We promise we're going to come here and do something and break through this partisan divide. And you'd think with the speaker spending so much time on impeachment, or now hearing that this could be drag out all the way until a couple weeks before Christmas, that she'd want to demonstrate that Washington can actually get something done. You know, we believe that if they put this on the House floor, that it would get 150 Democrat votes immediately, because it's a pure benefit for American workers in Virginia and across the country. We just have to break this divide.
How do we do that, Andrew? I mean, how do we get this thing? I mean, the vice president has been campaigning around. He's held rallies all over the country. I've been one of the biggest proponents for getting this passed in America. We've tried to put pressure on various Congress people. I've got two right here in Virginia, Elaine Luria, 2nd District, Abigail Spanberger, 7th. Both of them campaigned on a promise to get things done for Virginia. They haven't done squat because they're sitting around letting Nancy Pelosi basically dominate the headlines with impeachment. So how do we get movement? And we're running out of time.
Running out of time. We're getting closer and closer to these election year politics. This has already been one of the worst do-nothing Congresses of all time. So what we need is constituents in those districts that you mentioned small business owners, manufacturers, farmers, the kind of people who are really going to benefit from the higher wages from this bill, from protections for American workers, and for access to new markets to sell their products, to contact these members of Congress and say, we want to see a vote on this. We want you to go to the Speaker of the House, if you're a Democrat, she is the leader. She is the one who sets the floor agenda, and you need to tell her that we want to see a vote on this. We can't keep dragging our feet because Speaker Pelosi doesn't like President Trump. We're talking about 200,000 American jobs. We're talking about tens of billions of dollars in investment, and we're talking about fixing a broken trade deal that was created before the Internet.
Okay, so this thing, what's the timeline, Andrew? Now, just walk us through the options we have and the timeline available.
Well, we think the administration has done a good job of negotiating some of the policy concerns that Democrats expressed, and we'd love to see an agreement made on USMCA to bring it to a vote before Thanksgiving. That's the big push right now. So Congress is back here for 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, starting next Monday, and we're going to be putting a full court press on Congress to get a deal done before they leave for that Thanksgiving break, because I fear the closer we get to the presidential elections and the more kind of this heated partisan rhetoric ramps up, the more difficult it's going to be to get something done. So we're really putting the pressure on over the next 3 weeks, John.
Right. So we've got 2 weeks. It's got to get done before the Thanksgiving break. What's the key cog here? Obviously, Pelosi's got to agree to it, but how do you get this lodged? What is the strategic plan of TradeWorks of America to get this pried loose and get it on the floor for a vote, Andy?
What we've been doing, we've been working with the vice president. We've been working in districts across the country, but especially those districts that you just mentioned in Virginia, to really try to get that grassroots support, to have the people who are going to benefit from this, from employees of small businesses to people who are working on family farms to small manufacturers, to have the people tell their personal stories, to try to take it to their members of Congress who, we sent there to get something done. And you have 50 or so districts across the country where there are Democrats who won with, less than 5% of the vote. These are toss-up districts, and we want to send a message that you're there to get something done. This is a win-win for everybody concerned, and people are going to hold members accountable next year if we look back and see that you went to Washington and did nothing as usual.
Well, let's take a specific example. Let's take Virginia, and let's start with Elaine Loria, 2nd District, beat Scott Taylor in the midterm blue wave, campaigned as a moderate, said, elect me, I will work with President Trump in getting things done, infrastructure, trade, things that are going to benefit my district. Abigail Spanberger, District 7, same thing, right? Central, a lot of rural area farmers in Virginia said the same thing, voted against Pelosi for Speaker like she's promised she would. Didn't matter, obviously. So they say one thing, but they're not doing it. What can they do to go to their leadership and say, look, we need this thing passed for our constituents?
Yeah, they're just, you're talking about 2 districts that have traditionally been slightly Republican-leaning, 2 members of Congress who, as you said, have campaigned as moderates and said that they were going to go make a difference in Washington. What we'd really love to see and what we're encouraging for members is to really show that vocal support. We've gotten a lot of lip service that people are trying to work to get to a yes, quote unquote, on USMCA, and they're still waiting to hear all the details. Well, the details have been out there. This new NAFTA, this updated NAFTA that the president negotiated, came out in March. We know the details of it. So what we'd really like to see is these members of Congress really express some vocal support in the media, on their social media, to the speaker, and so we can really start to build a crescendo where we're saying there's a dozen, 2 dozen, there's 48 freshman members who have publicly said they want to vote on this and take that to the speaker's door and try to have a public debate on this. They've hidden behind their leadership and their caucus and not really publicly or strongly endorsed USMCA, and that's really what we need to see next.
What is we're with Andy Koenig. He's senior advisor, TradeWorks of America. Andrew Koenig. Andrew, TradeWorks of America, what is your involvement here, and what do you guys plan to do to make this successful?
We're a nonprofit organization that really has one mission and one mission only, and that's to advocate for the passage of the USMCA. And we have been working across the country. We've been running digital advertisements across the country. We've been working with the vice president's team as they do events across the country. We've been helping co-sponsor some of those events, and we've been working in about 36 different districts across the country, from California to Virginia, with paid media efforts to go into these districts and really tell the story of the benefits of the USMCA. So, in rural areas, we're talking to farmers. We're using testimonials from local farmers to talk about how it's going to allow them to sell their dairy products or their poultry in Canada in ways they weren't allowed to before. And we're talking to small manufacturers in places across the South about how these new rules are going to stop Mexico from undercutting them on wages. So we're really trying to tell personal stories in these districts where we know the swing is really going to happen. And Speaker Pelosi has a few different jobs, but one of her main jobs is to try to get reelected as Speaker. So we have a lot of these moderate members who have said that if they were going to go get something done, they wanted to be productive. Well, here's a great opportunity to show that. We also want to demonstrate that people are going to remember this and whether this vote occurred when they go to the ballot box in November.
Well, I love the work you're doing, Andrew. Let's see if we can get your people on our show, get some real stories going. Andrew Koenig, Senior Advisor, TradeWorks of America. More information, go to tradeworksofamerica.com. Andrew, great job. Also want to say that there's another organization out there, the American Jobs Alliance, founding sponsor of the John Fredericks Show, been with me for 8 years since I've been on the air. They're also fighting hard for passage of USMCA. Go to AmericanJobsAlliance.com, TradeWorksForAmerica.com. Andrew, thank you for being with us.
John, thank you for your time, and thank you for all the work you're doing on this. It's really appreciated.